I have to wonder if DC Comics Rebirth relaunch is too little, too late. Ever since DC Comics Publishing Division decided to end the DC Universe in 2011 and replace it with the New 52, the brand has been in a steady decline. Ever since DC Comics made a decision to launch the 52 titles that were part of the New 52, the brand has not been the same since. In the 5 years since the New 52 made their debut, DC Comics has lost close to 10% of its market share to Marvel Comics and Indies, and I believe that there has been too much time that has passed for the brand to regain any ground. 5 years is a long time in the business world. In 5 years, customers can find other products to become a fan of. And I believe that's what's happened with this DC Comics brand. 5 years have passed, customers have decided that while they were upset about the change, they have not embraced it and they have decided to move on. It often reminds me of what happened with the Transformers brand back in 1986 when Transformers the movie came out. Now, when Transformers the movie came out, Hasbro had the plan to introduce a whole host of new Transformers to buyers in the hopes that once they saw the old characters die, they would embrace the new characters. What happened was a complete backlash. When many people saw their favorite characters like Optimus Prime, Ironhide, Ratchet, Prowl, and many others that they grew up with killed on screen, what they decided to do was just move on. And the Transformers brand pretty much was in a slump for 9 years until Beast Wars came out and revived interest in the franchise. And when I look at the DC Comics brand, we're seeing that kind of indifference. Before, with the New 52 back in 2011, we had a lot of anger and frustration regarding the change. And over time, people became more and more indifferent with each stunt DC Comics editorial pulled in the hopes of getting its attention. And what happened in that 5 years was people became, as they became more indifferent, just decided to move on. And I believe what has happened with the DC Comics brand is that many have just decided to move on. This is why many were pretty much indifferent with the announcement of DC Comics Convergence and DCU, and they were just as indifferent with the announcement of DC Comics Rebirth. And indifference in the business world is the kiss of death for a product. When you can get some sort of emotional reaction out of people, you may be able to pique their interest. However, when people become indifferent to a product, that means they no longer are interested in it and they are pretty much moved on to other products. And this is very dangerous for DC Comics because that means that if they decide to launch these publications, there's not going to be anybody there to buy them. The customer has pretty much, again, decided to move on. They're no longer interested in the product, and they see no reason to care. And rightfully so, because every 3 to 5 years, we get some sort of reboot or some sort of relaunch, and it's hard to care about a publication when that publication has absolutely no direction and no focus. And just as you start reading a publication, you find out that it's either going to be canceled or relaunched. And I believe that comic readers have had enough of reboots, they've had enough of relaunches, and they want to see some sort of direction from editorial. And that's where the big problem is with at DC Comics. The editorial there has no idea on how to run a publishing company, and they have no idea on how to set a direction for their publications. Dan Dido has been at the wheel of DC Comics for almost 15 years now, and in those 15 years, he has pretty much destroyed this brand with his mismanagement and his lack of focus and his lack of direction. And Jim Lee pretty much, he destroyed Wildstorm before this, and now he's pretty much orchestrated the destruction of the second most popular brand of comics in America. And when we look at, their work here, this Rebirth relaunch really shows us that nothing really is going to change, because as long as these editors are in charge at DC, it doesn't matter how many relaunches we get, the product is pretty much going to be the same poor quality. What people really want to see is a change in editorial. I believe if people saw that change in editorial, they might have become a bit more enthusiastic about any sort of relaunch announcement. Because if you have the same chefs cooking in the same restaurant and then talking about you're creating new products, you pretty much know you're going to get the same slop. But if you get a new chef and a new manager in charge, you may be able to relaunch that restaurant. And with DC Comics as a publisher, what readers want to see is they want to see a new editor in chief, they want to see a new publisher, and they want to see a new direction for DC Comics branded publications. They want to see some sort of semblance of that classic DC universe in some way, shape, or form. They want to see those classic costumes come back, and they want to see a story model that is easy to follow and easy to read. Unfortunately, I don't think we're going to get that with this Rebirth relaunch. All we're going to get is more promises of change, but things, unfortunately, staying the same.